first.
I just hit got it.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. We'll go ahead and get started while more people are joining us online in here. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. This is super exciting, our first individual agent mastermind. And the reason behind that is Keller Williams is great for teams. However, after looking at our roster, we have 187 out of our 387 that are actually individual agents. And so we want to bring value to you. And through different conversations with agents, these were some of the main topics that were brought up. And so we'll go through and we'll interview and we'll introduce our speakers today, and then look forward for every month of this kind of being a regular idea. And if you have topics you want to discuss, then please let us know. And then at the end, we'll do questions. So without further ado, Paulina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure.
And say why you got into real estate and how long you've been in real estate?
Yep. So my name is Paulina. I've been in real estate for 2 years, going on 3 years now. I started in March of 2019. I got into real estate because I fell in love with sales, but the sales I was doing at the time were not the type of sales I wanted to do. They were very pressure sales, super quick sales. So I liked that aspect of it, but I was missing the relationship aspect of it. And I wanted to get involved in my community and just build relationships with people in our community.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, Paulina was not only KW Rookie of the Year, GSBOR, which is our local board Rookie of the Year, and also our region Rookie of the Year. And we have over 6,800 agents in our region. So.
I am Alex Moore. I've been an agent for 8 months. I've been in real estate total around 2 years. Was on the investment side first. That was kind of the main reason that I got into it, was long-term wealth. That's real estate's a good way to build that. So I started getting into it early. In terms of the past 2 years total, I've been in for the investment side. Got my license 8 months ago. Been at Keller Williams ever since. So that's it.
And I'm Chris Day. I've been in real estate for 14 years. However, I don't really feel like I started real estate until about 2015 when I came to KW, because I really didn't do very much at my last brokerage, and I never learned how to do real estate until I came over to Keller Williams. And I came to Keller Williams on staff, actually. I was agent services and was in charge of training, and I learned everything that I learned from teaching Ignite, and then I joined another agent as a buyer's agent on a team, and just got a wealth of knowledge from being on a team before going out on my own about 2 years ago, and I love it. I would never do anything else.
This is my second day. I don't know why I'm here. My name is Elyse Riley. I've been doing this. This is my 6th year. I started in January of 2015, and which is really great to track CAP when it's literally
Right in January.
January 1st, super easy. So I was in law enforcement. I was actually a deputy with Greene County Sheriff's Office, and I've been doing that for 5 years. And I wanted to have a job that paid me based on my work ethic, not what my salary was, which I think everybody knows for law enforcement is really bad. So, and also people don't like cops. I don't know if you know that. And I'm very sensitive. So when someone calls me names, I'm like, okay, you called me, Anyway, so I got into real estate. I kind of dipped my foot in. I hadn't quit my law enforcement job full time, and then I got 3 months in, and I realized that I needed to go ahead and make that clean break, and I just needed to go straight into real estate full time. So I've been doing it ever since.
Cool. So as you can see, we have a very wide range of panelists today. And for those of you online, if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat and we'll monitor it as we go along. But let's go ahead and start off. So we have 3 different topics we're covering today. The first is overcoming objections. Second is setting boundaries with clients. And the third is how to think outside the MLS in terms of lead generation. So we'll start with overcoming objections. So the first question, in this market with limited inventory and home selling over asking price, how are you educating your clients on why they should use a realtor, specifically you, to sell their home compared to them going for sale by owner? So who wants to kick us off on their answer? Give them a mic.
Um, so specifically working with sellers right now, it's tough because they see the market that we see too. Houses are on and off the market very quickly. They know that sellers hold a lot of the power right now in our market, and they look at that as we can do this and save money. Which, if that's an option, great. But then again, there is the limited amount of buyers that you're going to pull into your sphere when you are posting your stuff online and or your sign in the yard. The MLS gives you the best opportunity to see, well, get pre-qualified buyers into your house. That's the goal. How many pre-qualified buyers can we get in? Agents aren't necessarily going onto Facebook looking for FSBOs. We don't know if they're even going to work with buyers agents. That's a big, when I make calls on FSBOs, that's my first question is, are you guys want to work with a buyer's agent? If they are, great, we'll go see it. I search Facebook sometimes for FSBOs, especially in this market, it's tough. But again, as a buyer's agent, I'm using that to my advantage is I'm working against way less agents when I find FSBOs. I'm working directly with the seller. There's maybe another agent involved instead of having every agent in Springfield with pre-qualified buyers over here competing with me. So that's a discussion that I have with them is when I see FSBOs, I am thinking I have an advantage. You don't want that as a seller. You want to go out there and post or get your property in front of the most people possible to get the most return on your investment. So, I mean, that's kind of how I go about it with sellers. And then also I work through the contract with them. Typically I even break down a contract. Have you seen a contract before? Is this something that if you receive, you're going to be able to understand? And, it's not a knock at them. It's that people that are in this every day, it's constantly changing. We still have to go back and relearn things as it's updated. So it's something that if you aren't in it every day, it could be something that's really confusing, not only setting up the entire process, but even working through 8 pages of a contract to truly understand it. When we have buyers and we go out, again, I look at it as an advantage. I can go out there and in the fine print, make things happen. That's in the best interest of my clients. Other agents will do the same thing. If I go out and I try to be very upfront with FSBOs, especially when they are sellers and I have buyers, I want them to like the transaction. So I go out there and I explain everything. Most agents will not. I've seen a lot of FSBOs that have gotten in the fine print and they, put stuff in there that's in, property data review. One little line could change the entire deal. If you go out there and have a different number on there other than 0, you could back out pretty much over anything. So that's a big thing that I've seen is breaking that down for them and saying, guys, there's a lot in this that is more complicated than a sales price. And a lot of the times it's something that they start to understand. There's a reason there are professionals in this business that understand this stuff in and out. And it's kind of separating yourself from the pack in that sense.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point where you said it's more than just a sales price. There's more that goes into a deal than just sales price. Also, I want to clarify for those of you that don't know, FSBO is for sale by owner. So just for everybody in the room, so we can make sure we clarify that. No, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, who else wants to answer?
I have something to
Yeah.
add to that. So one of the biggest things that I've always found with working with people who are either interested in selling their home or they're talking to me as a friend or someone that I've known or a past buyer of mine that now is thinking about selling, or someone, especially if someone I don't know, it boils down to trust. How do they trust you, and to what extent do they trust you? If you are going as a buyer's agent into a contract with a for sale by owner, what I found to be the most incredibly important detail is how well do they trust you? How much information do you give them? Do you seem like an open book, or are you holding your poker cards close so they can't see things? If you're holding your cards close, they won't trust you. And they'll look for any excuse to say, see, I knew this is why agents are bad. See, this is why I knew I shouldn't have trusted you. Because this is the largest investment of their life and they have no representation. They probably have a cousin or someone that is a real estate agent in some other state or some other area. And so they think that they've got this guidance from somebody when really they don't have anybody advocating for them. So they're still probably nervous, whether or not they're very stubborn. It's usually based in, if they're rude or standoffish, it's probably based in fear. So if you can eliminate any of that concern and worry by doing what he's doing and breaking down the contract, and also saying things like, have you seen a seller's disclosure statement, and explaining what they can and can't do with that, or any of the other details like, hey, we're going to have an inspection. This is the company that we always use. feel free to look at their reviews, encourage them to learn more about it. This is the title company that I use. Here is this is the closing agent's direct phone number at her office. Call her anytime with questions. Those are the type of things that are based in how to build that relationship. And something that you might find is if it doesn't work out with your buyer, or if it's someone that one of the biggest things by explaining all of those things, that's overwhelming. That's so overwhelming. Like, we do this stuff every day. So as agents, we know the contract, we see the contract, we see compliance. This is the first time they've probably ever looked at these documents. And so it's intimidating, it's overwhelming. So there's probably a point in time where they might just throw their hands up and be like, I don't want to be the one to worry about this. You take it on. So I always explain, this is my process when I sell a home. Depending on if they're nasty or not, I always say I've got a team of cleaners. It's also because I need my photographer to come in here and not have to like sweep. So, if the house, depending on the condition, I might send a cleaner through there. And then instead of giving them a closing gift, I'll just tell them that I gave them a marketing gift. Because that way now I have my photographer who will go through, take great pictures, and then they'll know that their house is clean. But I also take away the worry. So if you're doing your life stuff, do your life stuff. I'll get the home cleaned. I'll get the home photographed. And it takes a lot of that concern and worry, and they see the value that you present to them. And so they might choose to, instead of going for sale by owner, to hire you as that agent.
I love that, because you mentioned you have a team. Even though you're an individual agent, you have a team of vendors. So you have a cleaning, you have a photographer, inspector, closing, title. So it's more than just you, and you bring those resources to the transaction outside of somebody just trying to do it on their own and figure it out. Paulina, were you going to say something?
Yeah. And the last thing she said was you have to provide value. So that, I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to for sale by owners, is you have to bring the value to them, and they have to see the value in using you as an agent. Because you're right. Right now, everybody thinks they can just throw their house on the Zillow for sale by owner or whatever, on Facebook, throw a sign in the yard and be able to sell a house. And yeah, maybe they have an advantage, but they don't understand all the moving parts that actually go into the sale. So when I meet with for sale by owners, I explain to them everything that I do, because anybody can sell a house right now. Okay, let's just be realistic, right? It's a seller's market. But that's not what it's about. And that's not where my value comes from. Where I provide value to you as a for sale by owner is everything that goes on behind the scenes that my clients don't even see, because I don't want them to see any of that stuff. I don't want them to have to worry about it. But as a for sale by owner, you're dealing with a lot of money, and I don't want you to get sued over something small that could have been easily avoided. So I think, like Elyse said, they have to see the value that you provide to them.
So what are some of the top objections you guys are hearing in these conversations with for sale by owners or your clients?
I mean, they don't want to pay the commission. And honestly, before I got into real estate, I would have thought the same thing. I don't want to pay 6% for something I can do myself. But what they don't understand is, as a for sale by owner, they're not exposing their house to 100% of ready, willing, and able buyers that we as agents are going to be able to provide to them. So what if there was a cash buyer from California that would literally purchase the house and we can close in a week? They don't know that, because their house is not being exposed to 100% of those pre-approved buyers that are literally ready to make an offer as soon as they see a house that they like.
Not to mention, you're fielding all the calls of agents wanting to list the house. So if you're for sale by owner, just turn your phone off.
Yep.
Yeah.
So adding to that, there's really four basic types of people who are going to be contacting a for sale by owner, or there are four basic buyers. So there's your immediate approved buyer who needs to buy something right now because of a job change or whatever the life situation is. There's the kind of a long-term buyer who doesn't need to buy immediately, but is going to be shopping for a while. And those two types of buyers are going to be approved. And approved buyers use realtors because they don't have to pay a commission to a realtor, right? And then you have investors who are going to be calling a for sale by owner because they want to get a deal on something. And then you just have looky-loos, someone who is not approved and will not be approved, and or maybe they're just wanting some decoration ideas or something. So the two types of buyers, the kind of the more long-term or the immediate buyer, they're going to be using a real estate agent. And yeah, some for sale by owners will work with a buyer's agent. And so when I have that conversation with them, I'll ask them, are you willing to pay a 3% commission to a buyer's agent? And if they say yes, then I'll ask, sorry, my phone is going off. So you're willing to pay someone 3% to negotiate against you? I mean, really, that's what it is. Because when I write a contract on a for sale by owner, I do put my property data days, I leave it blank, so it's 5 days, and I do not check line 154. So my clients have 15 days to get out of a contract. And I'm not going to tell the for sale by owner all of the loopholes that I'm putting in there to get them, to get my buyers out of the contract if need be. For sale by owners also don't have access to our sold property data, so they don't really know the price point that they need to be at. They're guessing based on a Zestimate or something like that. So along with everything else that everybody said, they're really allowing realtors to come in and negotiate against them.
So just to ask you a question, Chris, whenever you tell them that, whenever you're like, okay, if you're willing to pay the 3% commission to me as a buyer's agent, you're literally letting me negotiate against you. What's their response when you tell them that?
Well, they're always taken aback a little bit, and
They're like, oh crap, I didn't think about that. Whoops.
Cool. Okay, that was a lot of great things about it's more than a sales price for the contract. Do they trust you, and what value are you bringing? And the negotiation part, that's a good point to bring up. Cool, so we'll move on to our next topic. Hold, we'll do questions at the very end. Is that okay? Because we have to run mics. Is that okay? Cool. Okay. So setting boundaries with clients. So the first question, being an individual agent, you wear many different hats in the real estate transaction to your clients. How do you manage their expectations of calls, text messages, showings, etc., so you can still actually have a life and and or off hours? So how do you manage those expectations?
I just want to make it clear that we don't have lives. So if you're welcome to this industry, sorry. No,
Welcome to real estate.
There's some boundaries. I mean, I have a kid, and I'm not going to miss bath time and dinner time every single night with my kid, but there are other agents. So right now, especially in this market, as an individual agent without anyone else on my team, I have people that I trust to call if I know that I'm going to be busy during a certain timeline. So I know that this weekend, if I'm busy doing something or I have family in town, I have a surgery coming up, and I'm literally not going to be able to use my hand to open a door or anything. So it's just setting me up for a situation where I have to have those systems in place, but don't not have someone else that you can call. Having boundaries with clients specifically, when a house comes on the market, in this industry right now. And that's just kind of how our life is. If it pops up on the market and you're not available, have something else in place to make sure a client can get in to see the home, because you don't want to lose trust. You don't want your client to lose trust or faith that you don't have the capability of getting them into the door. Right now, I do my buyer's consultations and my seller's listing consultations. I do all of them the same way, where I have something in there that I say, nothing is going to be an emergency after probably 7:30 at night. And if there is, call 911. You don't need me after 7:30. I'm not going to come over. So if you have a ton of questions, email it. I will respond first thing in the morning. But after a certain period of time, don't reach out to me because I'm with my family. So it sometimes feels like that's impossible, or you don't want to do that. And if you're new, or you've been doing this, or you're trying to hustle, that's fine. Set those. If you don't want to set boundaries, that's fine. But if you don't set boundaries at the beginning, you will pay for that later. And also, without setting boundaries and expectations, they won't respect your boundaries and expectations, and they can't read your mind if you get upset. So if you start ignoring them because you responded to their text or phone call at 9:30 last night, but now you're not doing it tonight, they might think you're ignoring them. So set the expectation, because it's the professional thing to do.
Sounds like there's a bold law. You teach people how to treat you.
Yeah. That's a big
So
one.
whenever you say that to them, because that's pretty blunt and straight to the point, what are the responses?
I've never had anybody question it.
Okay.
So it sounds like it's not, I'll joke about stuff like, if there's an emergency, call 911. Don't call me. Like, that's the type of stuff. It gets that, like, it's not super serious, but also if their water heater is busting and it's flooding their house, that's cool. I'm not a plumber, so don't call me. Text me. Yeah. Or if you're like, hey, I need a plumber, like, that's different. That is an emergency. I'll respond to that. But like, set the expectation. If you're like, hey, so where do I write this earnest money check to? Don't text me that at 10:30 at night. You know. So those are the type of things. And if they do text you at 10:30 at night, but they know that you're not going to respond, they won't be mad at you.
Good. Anybody else?
I do like all of that. I try to avoid showings in the evenings, and I do so by building a trust with my buyers up front by my first few showings. You know, I show them that, and usually by telling them I don't like this house for any number of reasons, and I point out anything negative about a house, and they come to trust me and my opinion about a property, and I understand what they're looking for. So when a house pops up, in fact, right before I came here, I went over and previewed a house, and I do a ton of video previews, and I'll video a house, give them my opinion about everything about it, about the neighborhood. Sometimes I'll film the neighborhood, I'll upload it to YouTube, I'll send them a link, and I write a ton of contracts where my buyers have never seen the property, because if they can't get to it until after work at 6 p.m., I don't want to show at 6 p.m., but I'm going to film such a great video that they're going to trust that they can write an offer on it, and then they'll go see the house at the inspection. So that's how I
That's a good idea.
avoid evening showings, is by doing great videos.
So in the spirit of transparency, let's be honest, a lot of people probably don't already have boundaries set, and that's okay. I think the biggest thing from this panel is, what can you take away from to move forward and work on? So if you don't have boundaries and you feel like you're running yourself to the very end, that's okay. But let's take something that they have suggested and kind of move forward with that.
One thing I did want to touch on with what he said about evening showings. Right now in this market, stuff is coming on and off very quickly. So again, when you have those clients, you don't want to let them miss out on something because you didn't do what you can to get them in it. And that's a kind of a internal struggle that I have sometimes. And when I try to set that in the buyer's console as when something comes on, you know, we have busy schedules. When you have an entire day that you have things going on, they may send you something at 4 o'clock that's been on for 24 hours since last night and you hadn't seen it. So you weren't able to make that call and see, hey, where are you guys at on offers? Typically, I don't dig into other agents until after we've seen the house. But in situations like that, where I'm thinking this house could be going under contract tonight, it's that kind of a property, I make that call and say, where are you at on offers? If you have something, you guys are serious, you will be going over offers tonight. That's when I'll try to make that exception or get somebody over there that can open that door for them to make sure they have a shot if they want it. But that's again, that's kind of an internal thing. It's like, I get it. I want to give them the best shot, but it's just finding loopholes to try to save you that time. If you make that call to that agent and they say, hey, you're lucky, we're not reviewing for 4 more days, which apparently happens nowadays. Great. Okay, we have 3 more days to get over there and take a peek at it. It's not an absolute emergency. And then you can let your client have some, peace of mind. But if you need to get them over there, I get it. I get it from their standpoint too. And that's just dealing with busy lives. So,
Yeah. So I think it's interesting also because you are an individual agent, and so that's your income that you're living off of. And so you're hustling all these clients. What happens? Have you guys ever had to fire a client before? Have you ever had to say, no, I'm choosing not to work with you? Because that's money off the table and that's money out of for your life. So
Hell yeah.
okay.
Absolutely.
So what happened? How did you do it? What was that conversation like?
I'm ready. Okay.
She's like, it may not be
I have
easy.
a whole list.
And for some people, it may not be easy. I mean, there's some people that love blunt conversations, and there's some people that just makes them cringe inside thinking about having a hard conversation.
So I've never been one to really enjoy confrontation, but sometimes there's just some satisfaction at the end of it. So, because like before in my previous career, if like the confrontation ended up and they were under arrest, that was always satisfying, I assure you. But in this industry, it's different, But I've had some people who, no matter what, you set those boundaries, if they just don't respect your time and they're taking you to showing after showing after showing, then and they're not realistic. I had a client that I said, do you want the house or do you want a deal? Because you cannot have both. And after a certain amount of showings, I just said, I was like, it sounds to me like you're still in this for the deal, and I'm not going to write a sixth offer when I know that it's not going to work. So this relationship is just, it's not going to pan out. And that was so freeing because it was a colossal waste of my time. And be careful with investors too, because there are investors, especially from out of state, that will use you, and then all you have to do is type that name in any of those big real estate groups and be like, has anyone worked with so and so before? And you'll get people that say, oh yeah, I've worked with them. And I've worked with two real estate investors that had cash, and they would throw cash around, and they bought homes, properties that I was their buyer's agent on, but these were dilapidated properties. And they
$500. Thank you for
right,
the
they wanted me to go
80
and
hours of
see.
work.
Right, the expectation was go view these 16 homes in 2 days and write 4 contracts for me that make absolutely no sense. And eventually you'll pick up 1 or 2, but it's not worth your time. You're wasting so much time. And what is your time worth to you? Again, if you're trying to hustle and every penny matters, cool, but eventually that's what will create burnout in your life, and you have to avoid that. What are you going to do to set the expectations to your clients? If they don't respect your time, they probably never will. And so get out of it as soon as you can.
Anybody else had to fire a client?
I did. I think last year I had a couple that I was working with, and they were approved for a loan, and they could only see houses in the evenings or on weekends. And I think they took 3 of my weekends in a row where I was missing things with my kids and evenings. And they wrote and got under contract, I think, on 3 different properties, and then pulled out within
Oh my
24 hours
goodness.
on each of those. And it was like after like 3 weeks of working with them, and I think one of them might have been one of Elise's properties. I just let them go. I think we had gotten a verbal or something, and then they're like, then they just backed out. So,
yeah, that was you.
uh-huh.
Uh-oh.
So no, but I had to tell them, like, I'm no longer willing to work with you, because you've taken all of my evenings, you've taken my weekends, you've written offers, and then you keep backing out of it. And I'm not willing to continue to do this. So I need you to find someone else to work with. They did keep for months searching through my website. So I was getting notifications all the time because my website notifies me if someone looks at a property more than 3 times or for different criteria. But yeah, that was a really, really frustrating client that I was happy to let go.
I bet. I've never had to fire anybody yet, but I have referred somebody. So like I had a kind of a very needy client, and I was like, I don't have time for this. Is there a new agent out there that maybe has more time that wants to take it on? But going back to the boundaries really quick, I want to touch on that because I have a confession. I am awful at, and I'm still dealing with this. Even in my 3rd year, I and you're so right, Elyse, like if you don't set those boundaries early, you're gonna regret it. And I am so regretting it because I like work my butt off, and I show on weekends, I show on evenings. I will, and I don't mind responding, late at night if I'm on my phone and they text me and it's something easy. I don't mind responding, but then they expect you to always respond. I've had calls at 1 a.m. Like, what? Are you drunk dialing me? Like, what? Don't call me. But what I have started doing is setting those expectations early in my consultations. So just like Elyse said, I will set those expectations early, and that way they know if, I'll tell them if I'm on my phone late at night, I'll answer, but don't expect me to answer all the time. And then there was another thing I wanted to say. I can't remember now. Brain fart. Tim walked in and threw me all off.
Well, I think that's important of the consultation. So if you're not doing consultations and talking about what criteria they're looking for, are they pre-approved, and setting those expectations, then you're setting yourself up for a lot more roadblocks in the process of transactions. So having those is really important.
Yeah, and you reminded me what I was going to say. So now when I talk to my clients and explain things, I used to get a lot of questions from my clients, and when you're working with multiple clients and everybody's sending you questions, it's very overwhelming. But what I've started doing is I will explain everything slower and in much more detail. That way, there's no questions left on the table. So, whenever I make a phone call or I send a text message, before I send that text message, I will reread it and make sure if I was a first time home buyer, if I read this, does everything make sense to me? Do I have any other questions? And that kind of prevented further questions, follow up questions from those people by me explaining everything thoroughly the first time around.
That's a good point because you do this so often that you
Mhm.
forget about those other questions. And then if you're
Yeah,
seeing those same questions pop up, then it's more of, is this a me thing, not a them thing? If you're hearing the same
exactly.
questions over and over.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good point. Okay, so our next topic.
Rachel,
Yes, go ahead.
I had one more. Investors will waste your time. There are a ton of people out there that will use you as leverage to find what they want and then cut it down to the bare bone. I know it's a lot of money and it will make you foam at the mouth at times with what they can do, but they are out to get a deal. Right now, deals are tough to come by, so they will leverage an entire office if they can to make sure they're getting deals. Cover your butt, know your stuff, make sure you are getting taken care of. That is a very, very important thing. You could waste, I mean, I didn't waste. Took a year and a half for me to really understand that and learn enough to where I make sure that I'm good. And that is a hard process to get through. It was hard to get through my head. So, just be aware of that. If you want to learn, take your time. I mean, Google is I say that. I mean, it literally is. You can go learn a ton about it. Take your time, understand. And when you go out there, represent yourself as well. These people often have licenses. They know what they're doing. They are using you as leverage. So take that for what
Speaking
it's
from
worth.
personal experience, the foaming from the mouth part, or
Yes.
how do you know?
Yep.
Okay.
Still do
Just making
sometimes.
sure.
So
Also, investors are typically buying cheaper properties, and when I was a buyer's agent, in my first like 6 or 9 months or something, we were going over my numbers, and my team leader was telling me, Chris, your average price point is only $120,000. I'd gotten a lot of units, but it's like, your price point is this low. Let's get it up here. And she had to work with me on getting really comfortable with higher end homes. And if you can focus on trying to do a higher end home and have that as your price point, I think my average price point right now is somewhere up around 300,000. Those homes are much easier. Those transactions are much easier. You don't have all the inspection issues. You don't have the financing issues. You don't have the fall throughs. You have people who have purchased homes in the past, and so they're much smoother transactions, and you make a lot more money. So if you can intentionally move your price point from a low first time home buyer price point to a higher, moving up price point or retiree price point or something like that. And you can do it. You just, like anything else, you just have to have that focus and intention.
That's a great point. Okay, our next topic is how to think outside the MLS in terms of lead generation. So the question is, in a market with low inventory, how are you finding homes for your clients? In most cases, as soon as homes are listed on the MLS, they're already pending within the next day or so. So how do you compete? Paulina's eyes are really big, like, oh.
Mhm. So I go back to some of the agents that I know, like the heavy hitters, like Dan's team, Adam's team, the people that I know that they have a shadow inventory. I'll go to them, and the relationship. This is what goes back to, you want to have a really good relationship with your fellow agents. Don't be the type of person that doesn't respond if they need a correction on their file. And this is something that, when I was overwhelmed, didn't have a TC, get a TC, get a TC. But when I was overwhelmed, I wasn't always timely with stuff. And that was frustrating for the agents that were working with me. And so you don't want to be known as the agent that doesn't have your shit together. So if they know that you're easy to work with and they've got the shadow inventory, you can go to them and say, hey, I've got this. It's not just, I mean, everyone is posting in those Facebook pages. Everyone is saying, buy your need, buy your need. Everyone has a buyer's need. I don't even look at those anymore because everyone's got the buyer need. I know that you have that need. I'm going to be listing it no matter what. So just, FYI, this is coming to the market soon. But those personal relationships that I've built with other agents that I know have something coming, that they're a heavy hitter with the listing side, those are the people that I go to. It's a personal phone call. What do you have coming up? This is what I have coming up. And you share that information and you build those relationships even further. And that's one of the ways that I think you can, as an agent, establish better relationships with those agents and also really look out for your clients in that way. Otherwise, I always look at my past inventory. What have I sold in the past? I've got a client that needs to have a 3-1 in Republic for less than 140. I know I've got a property that I sold 4 years ago. I can go back to that client and say, hey, are you interested? I have a buyer. If it's something that I know that they've messed around with, because I can see whether or not they've looked at properties that I'm sending them, or they're opening my emails and it shows that they're looking at that neighborhood snapshot. So I can see those people are interested in the market.
That's a great point of by plugging into the market center and making those relationships. That is the whole value is we're a culture of high productivity. Doug Lutz transferred here from another brokerage. And I'm not joking, his first year, he did majority of his deals just walking through the hallway and saying, hey, what do you have? I have this. So being new, just going around, introducing yourself, coming to events, and not only at our market center, but the local board, getting plugged in and meeting those agents, that's extreme value. So when you call them, you have that relationship already built.
Just to touch on that, am actively doing the same thing. I will write down a list of my buyers' needs. I know there's faces in here that have seen me do it because I've asked. Walk around with the list into the offices. Hey guys, I have these people. Is there anything you have? That's where you're going to start running into the different hats that everybody are wearing too. Because when we have sellers, we want to get them the most money, right? That's our fiduciary duty is to them. That's how everybody else is too. When they post stuff, it's, hey, I need to list this. This is for my client's best interest, just as Elyse said. But here's an early look at it where you guys can know this is coming up, help you set up showings and stuff like that. Make that call to that agent too and say, is this something to where would your client get something signed early? If we could have them X, Y, and Z instead of putting it on the market, what are they looking for? And going about it that way. Another thing is, sorry, I have a list. Searches. I just found out about these things and they're so cool. The MLS searches, like I know how bad, seriously. So I've been in 8 months. Okay. But I found out about it actually, yeah. So anyways, they are awesome. And you can go back through and there probably is a class on this, but if there's not, I will freaking
Flex MLS class with Mike Brown every month.
So there it is.
It's on the YouTube channel if
there
you
it
missed
is.
it already.
That's right there. So anyway, I mean, you can literally see exactly what you can go back through and see what's come on. So even if they haven't viewed it, you can make that call. Helps make your searches easier. I mean, I make that call of an evening if they haven't seen something, say, hey, this came onto your search. Did you take a look at this? It really helps save that time, but also in the buyer's consult, setting that expectation of, hey, we have more than just, and it's a kind of weird way to word it, but more than just you, to be frank. We have other stuff going on. If you see something that before I see it, send it to me. Make sure that I see it. If you're on realtor.com and get a notification, Zillow, whatever, if something pops up, send it to me. If it's already pending, off mark, whatever the case is, I'll let you know. If not, great. Thank you for getting it in front of me before we missed out on it, kind of thing. So setting that expectation early, it's not a laziness thing that you aren't able to see it first. It's just that there's a lot of stuff going on, especially when you have to wear multiple hats to get all of your clients through their transactions. You can't be focusing on just one thing at every hour of the day. It's making sure that it's kind of a team effort in that sense. I've had zero pushback on that for people just wanting to help on the search too.
So what are you guys' top lead generation methods?
My top lead gen is absolutely my database. If I look at my closed units for this year, I think a couple of them came from open houses, which open houses used to be about a quarter of my closings. Right now, over 90% are past clients or past client referrals. So it's just keeping in touch with past clients. They're all, they get emails from me. They'll get text messages from me, but I also follow all of my past clients on Facebook and Instagram. And I don't know if you know how to do this, but you can set up lists in Facebook so you can categorize people. I have all of my realtor friends categorized. And so if I want to put out a post just to my realtor friends, I can just choose that category. I can also choose past clients, but if I want to see my news feed that's just past clients, I can pull it up that way. like and comment, like and comment, like and comment, and I'm interacting with them so that they'll interact with me back. And so I do get a lot of business just by interacting with my past clients on social media. It keeps me top of mind, you know, and then they refer people to me, or they sell again. And I do want to hit on off market listings as well. I am able to get off market properties that I can sell to my buyers by my own listing. So if I'm doing circle prospecting around one of my listings, you know, I'll send out postcards, I'll door knock. If I find someone who might be interested in selling, I've got one under contract right now that I've double sided, and it's because I found a house in the same neighborhood as a listing that I had, and they were interested in selling, and so I had a buyer for it. I connected them. Also open houses, you know, open houses are a great way to pick up listings. I think I've gotten as many listings from open houses as I have buyers. So
That's an interesting point, because I actually met with an agent this last week, and they have done probably 20 plus open houses, and they've only received one client. So I think everybody's experience is different. So what are you doing, or what questions are you asking to
interesting.
get more business?
With open houses, what I found works best is being extremely confident. Okay, asking the right questions. I have really specific scripts when I'm doing an open house, and if I look back in the past 2, 3, 4 years, I bet I get one closed unit per open house that I do.
Wow.
And I don't do a lot of open houses right now because you can't find them, but yeah, I used to get a lot of business from open houses, and it is all about the scripts, asking the right questions. I get down to, you know, whether or not they are a real active buyer, and whether or not they have a relationship with a realtor right now. And if they don't, I'll say, great, well, now you do, I'm your realtor. And I will specifically say that to them. And sometimes they'll look funny, but then they buy a house with me, you know, and it's about that confidence. If you can show that you have real market knowledge, and you know, you just put yourself out there as, I am your realtor now. And there have also been times where I've been intelligent enough about the market and what's going on around the, you know, with the houses on market, and teaching them something in an open house, that I'll get a phone call the next day, you know, after they told me they're working with an agent and I leave them alone. They'll take my business card and they'll call me the next day and say, hey, I learned more from you yesterday at the open house than I have in the 3 months that I've worked with my agent. I would rather work with you. So yeah, just market knowledge, know about all of the inventory in that kind of same price range, and the lower price range and upper price range. Just have as much market knowledge as you can, and then just be super confident and tell them that you're working with them now.
Are any of you guys using the investor term driving for dollars to find
Yes.
off-market properties? Paulina, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we show so many houses. There's agents. So now it's like embedded in my brain. Anytime because I have a list of my active buyers up on my board in my office. So every morning I check the hot sheet, and I just have them in my mind. You know, I have Katie looking for a 3-bed 2-bath in this neighborhood. So if I show a house in that neighborhood, and I maybe see somebody working on the house, or maybe the grass is a little too high, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to door knock that, because you never know, they might just sell. And I literally will door knock on their door and say, hi, I'm a real estate agent. I have a buyer looking in this neighborhood. Have you thought about selling? And anywhere I drive now, it's like, oh my gosh, it's almost like a curse. Because even if I'm not working, I'm constantly like, ooh, this person would like that house. Like, oh my gosh, look at this house. So yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Does anybody else have anything to add to that really quick?
Driving for dollars.
Or just anything of finding properties outside of the MLS?
I wanted to go back to open houses.
Okay.
What Chris said, it does come down to showing your value once again, and not being like pushy, like, you know, having commission breath, but showing your value and building a relationship with those people. And there's so many other things you can do with an open house besides the 2 hours that you're there. I mean, when I still do open houses, and when I first started, 50% of my business, I would say 50% came from open houses. Now it's more like a 25% because I am transitioning into past clients, referral business. But with open houses, besides the 2 hours that you're there, you can door knock the day before with a flyer, just handing out flyers saying, hey, I'm going to be doing an open house on Sunday. If there's an unusual amount of cars in the neighborhood, it's just me doing an open house. By the way, feel free to stop by. Or have you thought about selling? I've got this house listed for 200,000. Have you thought about what your house could be worth? And what I would do is I would print out 20 flyers, and maybe a day before my open house, I would go door knock the neighborhood around that open house. I would not go home until I talked to at least 20 people. And that's one way you can pick up new listings, not only buyer leads.
I think part of it too is understanding the language of real estate. So, I mean, we call it scripts, and that's what it is because you have to learn your scripts to know what you're talking about and how to easily have that conversation in order to start a conversation with someone. But it boils down to the language that you know. So, if someone walks into your open house and this is the 10th one that you've done, you still haven't gotten a client yet, so you kind of have a bad attitude about it, they're not going to use you. I mean, you've set yourself up for failure. But if you go in there and you're confident and you talk to people and you explain things about the home. Every time someone walked into my open house, I would say, hey, I actually walked up to every single person and I shake their hand. That's because you cannot ignore me. I'm right here and I'm short and I'm not going to move out of your way until you shake my hand. But I do it, and that's different because every open house I've ever gone into, no one has ever done that. So that was the one difference that I made, that I forced a connection. And then afterwards, for some reason, that handshake, what I learned is that people really, they are disarmed now, and they feel welcomed and they know that you appreciate that they're there. And I always say, thank you very much for coming. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I'll always put something in what I say to them when I greet them. I'll tell them the specs of the home. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It's 1,400 square feet and it was built in 82. So it's likely that it's a good it's nicely constructed or whatever. It's newly remodeled, whatever I'm going to say. Let me know what your thoughts are on that master bathroom. It's kind of interesting. And they're like, what? Okay. And then they got to play it cool though, so they don't just go straight to the master
Can't just
bathroom.
run right to it
They
to
can't
look
be
at
like,
it.
why is there pink walls, or there's carpet in the bathroom right by the sink, where they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so weird, or whatever it is, just something different or unique about the house. I'll try and find something about it and ask them, just tell me your thoughts on that. I think it's kind of strange, or I think it's really cool, or you are going to love the master shower. And then they go and they're excited to go and see it. And then you have another talking point when you see them again when they're done looking. So that way you don't have to shadow them and follow them. You already know,
It's
yeah,
creepy.
don't do that. That's weird. But if you have that point that you've already given them from the beginning, now when they're back coming through and they're done, you have that topic of conversation. What did you think about that shower? It's pretty cool, huh? And they're like, yeah, oh my God, I would love something like that. This is out of our budget, but if we could, and then you can start the conversation. So there's so many ways to introduce yourself and go about it at an open house.
And I think one of the ways, as you're working with so many buyers, one way to protect yourself is make sure you have that buyer agency agreement signed. You're not getting paid if you don't have that agency agreement signed. So they could walk into one of these open houses, fall into their lovely scripts, and boom, you've lost your client. So in those consultations, that's when it's important to get that signed paperwork so you're protecting yourself and so you get paid.
Another big thing, this is the fourth time it's going to be set up here, but providing value. The shift that I had to get out of commission breaths, I think at the very beginning I did have it. I started thinking about how can I provide value without expecting anything in return. That took away, in my mind, it took away my commission breath. It was, I just want to provide value. If I can, I think it's going to return itself. If it doesn't, it's okay. Like they were probably weren't going to be my client anyways, and that took away that, I don't know, aggressiveness from me. It was like, I was there to have fun. Like I wanted to have fun with these people. I wanted to provide as much value as possible. I was also in the very beginning, and I love open houses. Like if you are a new agent, push open houses as hard as you can. You have like 10 different lead generation possibilities from one open house. You can there's so many different things you can do. If, the day before doing the door knocking, 20 flyers. I mean, that is That is 20 different people. If you said, I'm going to be out here until I speak with 20 people, 20 different people you get to talk to. Even if they take your flyer, shut the door, your flyer's in their house with your name on it and your phone number. It's on the counter. I mean, they're seeing it at least once. It's an opportunity to get out there in front of people. And being strategic about the open houses that you're selecting. Right now, it's really tough. A lot of the open houses that are available right now may not be the best open houses to find buyers because they're on the market. If it was a great house that was going to sell and everybody was going to be in it, it's probably gone. So I know it's really tough right now. Try to get that by going around to the office and see what people have coming up. You're probably going to take a gamble on that. You're going to take time. You're going to have signs. You're going to put money and time into this, and it could go under contract. The chance that it doesn't, you're going to have a killer open house. We had one. This is not. We set one up 3 weeks ago and opened up the door. In the first 5 minutes, we had 20 groups through. 20. I literally had to call. I actually called Rachel and said, "Hey, I'm out of detail sheets. Can you please print some off and bring some?" I mean, I couldn't have believed that was going to happen. It turned out to be a beautiful day, but I mean, it's $165,000 price point. Went live the night before on a Saturday, had an open house, and that was what happened. I mean, if you can strategically pick the houses that you're going to have, you can have a ton of people through and have a ton of opportunity to get better, and take that as a learning point too, of getting better through each open house. You can get better, learn things that are going to happen. Door knock. In that open house, we had 5 neighbors come over, which was the most that I'd had just from door knocking the day before and inviting people. Most I've ever had. Go with good agents. I say good agents. Anybody that does open houses is probably going to be pretty good at it at some point. My first 3 were with Austin back there. The first 2 that we did, we had 2 sellers come and ask us to take a look at their house after. He let me come, which was super cool. I got to learn a lot. And then he had, I don't know, I can't tell you how many buyers that he had like actively pursuing, like, hey, I don't have an agent. And it was like learning and listening to him talk helped me understand what I have to do. Letting people cross back over standing in the living room and letting them cross back over, having a point to talk about on the way back, stuff like that. So learn from the people that are around. They will happily, you can go ask anybody that does open houses. They'd love to have you come shadow them, take a peek. I mean, I learned a ton by doing that, and just so happens he's back there, but yeah, learn a ton from him.
So when you think of open houses, it's just like a client event, right? The event is the event. However, the gold mine is what's leading up to it. So for an open house, if that's an event every Sunday, what are you doing leading up to that? So is it calling your database and letting them know about the open house? Is it door knocking to let them know? Just the same way, it's the beginning, the follow-up, or the beginning stages of it and the after stages of it. So after the open house, calling the people that came through and just following up, asking for feedback, and then just pursuing those other appointments. That is the gold mine right there.
Yep. And you bingo right there. The secret is in the follow up, because even if you make a great impression on them at the open house, they're still not going to call you tomorrow. They're not. I mean, they might,
Yeah.
1 in a million, but the secret is in the follow up. So I have a very strategic follow up plan after my open houses. The day of, I will send them a text message or an email saying, thank you for stopping by my open house. It was great to meet you, blah, blah, blah. If you have any questions, or if you want to come and look at the house again or any other houses on the market, please let me know. And then the next day I will call them. 99% of them are not going to answer their phone call, and that's okay, because it's not about, having that conversation with them. It's about staying front of mind. So I will leave them a voicemail and then text them again saying, hey, once again, it was nice to meet you. If you have any real estate needs this week, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to help. And they probably won't answer still, but you got to just keep following up. So then I'll text them again, maybe on Wednesday, then again on Friday. Actually, my first client ever that I picked up from an open house, I'm not even kidding you guys, I probably texted her like 20 times. No response, no response, no response. And I was like that crazy ex-girlfriend, like, I'm going to keep texting you until you freaking text me back. And then it's because at the open house, I had a conversation with her about what she's looking for. And then anytime a house within that criteria would pop up, I would send it to her and say, hey, this house just came on the market. It made me think of you. Let me know if you want to see it. So finally, like 20 text messages later, she's like, hey, actually, can I go look at that house? And that was one of my first clients that I picked up from an open house. But it's really the secret is in the follow-up.
I'd like to add to what both of you said. open houses that have a ton of visitors are my least favorite, because I cannot have conversations with that many people. I hate it when there are 50 groups that come through. I've had my most successful open houses are when I have 2 or 3 visitors, because I can take the time to form a relationship with them, and I can sell all 3 of them houses. When there's so many people in a house, and also when there's so many people in a house and I'm using the very same script every time on each one of them, yeah, I have to try to do it in different rooms away from the people that I've already spoken to. And yeah, the follow up is where the gold is. And if someone, oh, also, I don't do sign up sheets. I used to have like an iPad where they'd sign up on the iPad, or the paper sign up sheets, which I didn't like. I don't use those at all anymore. I get their contact information by asking them for it, and then I write it down. When they walk in the door, I introduce myself and I ask them their name. And as soon as they walk away from me, I write their name down so that I can call them by their name when I'm, having a conversation with them later. I love doing video. So after the open house, while I'm still in the house, I'll shoot a video personalized to them, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, thanking them for coming to the open house. And the reason I like to do the video is because they probably visited 5 or 6 open houses on Sunday. They're not going to remember who I was by saying, thanks for coming to my open house on Chestnut Street. But if they put my face in the living room that they saw me in, then they're going to remember me better. And then when I continue to have my follow-up, I just think it helps a little bit. So try video. I think it works really well.
Wow. So this has been extremely valuable. The 3 main things I've gotten from all of our conversation is providing value, and what value do you provide to your clients, relationships and having purposeful relationships, and then having scripts and systems for your business, especially being an individual agent. So we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Once they say their question, make sure we repeat it back so everyone online can hear it, and then we'll answer it. So Nicole, do you want to ask your question from earlier? Okay, cool. What's your specific question about value?
Yes, you do.
So, okay. So the question is how do you
Sure.
properly communicate your value whenever you're competing against Zillow, where they can find a property online? So how do you find your value and how do you communicate?
So we're talking about for sale by owners specifically? Okay.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot more
So
exposure.
will you repeat that?
Yeah. So her question was, a for sale by owner, they can put a house on Zillow. How is that more exposure than putting the house on the MLS? I mean, I can put a house on Zillow and that's still not going to touch every single buyer in the market. I mean, think about right now in this competitive market, how many serious buyers are working with buyer's agents? Me as a buyer's agent, I'm not checking Zillow. I'm checking MLS. I've got my people set up on MLS searches. So I don't know if the statistics are 100% correct, but listing a house on Zillow as a for sale by owner versus listing it on the MLS. On Zillow, you're only exposing your house to about 10% of buyers versus on the MLS, you're going to be exposing that house to 100% of ready, willing, and able buyers. This includes buyers that are working with buyers agents that are serious about purchasing and not those tire kickers that Chris was talking about that just either want a deal or just like looking at houses and wasting people's time. So those serious buyers are going to be working with buyers agents. Buyers agents are more than likely checking the MLS And not only that, right now with as many people we have moving here from out of state, those people are also probably working with an agent and not just checking Zillow. And Zillow isn't, oh, I hate that word. The Z word. I mean, what do you guys
I don't
think?
think so. So here's what I would add to that. We are the professionals. We are the people that so we're the real estate agents. We know the real estate market better than anybody. Like people who are for sale by owners are brand new. They don't have their license. They don't know the wherewithal. They don't have the relationships on that shadow market, that shadow inventory. They don't have the comps how we run them. We have relationships with vendors, also appraisers. So when someone comes to me and I say, well, they're like, well, it's a 4th-bedroom home. I'm like, well, that's in the basement and it's literally the size of a closet without a closet and no window. And so you know the legalities of it. So some of the value that you provide is not just Zillow and where it's listed, but when you provide, when like KW syndicates still, right? Like we syndicate. We don't just go to Zillow. We go to realtor.com, Trulia. We go to hundreds of websites. So you're in charge too of how many people can see it. You can go through command through the the CRM that you already have access to, and you can post it on Facebook and then see how many views you get. You're in charge of all of those things. So the value isn't just someone can post this on Zillow and then suddenly they're going to have buyers and exposure. Yes, of course they will, but you know what else they're going to get? A ton of phone calls from ISAs. And so if they don't have a real estate agent that's going to represent them, all they're going to get is a bunch of people trying to get their business. And so if that's the route that they want to take, that's fine, but they're about to be harassed in a major way. I mean, and when I say harassed, I mean, they're about to have a lot of value reached out to them by all of these really amazing ISAs, which there are some really great ISAs out there. I mean, like the Grady team, for example, inside sales agent. And so what they do is they call for sell by owners, expireds, they call leads, they call people within their team sphere, and they make connections with those people. And so you have all of these things at your fingertips when you decide to list with an agent, because that agent already has those relationships built. You have the knowledge because you've gotten a license to sell real estate. Again, you're the professional. They're this person that's like, I don't want to pay a commission. And so they're going to just throw it on Zillow and hope for the best. That's not how that, I mean, the success rate of for sale by owners actually closing without some type of real estate transaction help is very minimal. And a lot of people don't want to talk about that, but they have to reach out to somebody that they know that is a real estate agent or was a real estate agent 5 years ago, with tons of questions. And I mean, it's impossible to not expect to expect to sell a home to somebody that's not represented by an agent. An agent is going to likely have some type of dealing in that transaction. It may just be someone that's going to be paid, hopefully, the 3% to negotiate against them.
And I think she hit it is you're the professional. I mean, you're hearing the different terms, like an escalation clause. Half the agents, even in our board, do not understand an escalation clause. So what happens if a buyer's agent wrote that in and they ended up paying the full price? I mean, so it's just understanding terms like that that are coming new in this market that you're able to educate them on.
How many people in here have active buyers that are pre-qualified searching for houses right now? Could you raise your hand? How many people searched on Zillow in the past 3 days for houses to find their clients? 1, 2, 3.
Out of a room
of 25. I think that'd be the same thing if we brought down every person from this office and really other brokerages. That you can show that value by saying that everybody that has the pre-qualified buyers that are actively searching to find these properties are not looking on Zillow. The hustlers, the people that are really getting after it, that are struggling, they may have a buyer that's on a struggle bus. I got some right now. It's tough. MLS isn't really helping me. So you got to go elsewhere, right? But for the majority, it's searching on the MLS, and that's where everybody's going to be looking. These statistics are not correct right now. It was like 4 months ago when Mike Brown and I were talking about this. 6% of the buyers coming from outside of our MLS are from California. 6% are from Oregon. 12% of buyers, and a lot of them are cash, are coming into our MLS. They're not looking on Zillow. They have agents that are actively looking on the MLS. You are not showing them a property that looks like the price of an apple to them because you don't have it in front of their agent. That is the conversation that you have to have. That is a huge portion of your value, is you have the ability to get it in front of those people. That's who you're trying to get in front of. So I mean, I think that's a big value point right there.
I have some buyers, and specifically I can name 3 where they will not work with a for sale by owner because they've done it in the past, or they've had a bad experience, or they've been a for sale by owner in the past and they know that, I mean, excuse the language, but it's a shit show. So they don't want to work with someone that is not an established professional with knowledge and education and experience in this industry. And these are the largest transactions of people's lives. So to expect to just have someone that's like, so what do you do for a living? Well, I've been a PE teacher my whole life, and I'm going to sell my $300,000 home. And I don't want any inspections. I don't want to deal with realtors. I don't want to deal with this or that. And then you have a title company that's like, hey, and they have a ton of questions. They're unrepresented. So if they answer something incorrectly, they're way more liable for a lawsuit. If you don't disclose something and you purposely covered up something and you're like, well, that was 10 years ago. It's never been a problem for me. But really, now it's a problem for the new owner of the home that's going to have to deal with this property. So there's a ton of liability that's also at stake for the for sale by owner, if that's the route they choose to go. But I wouldn't personally trust a for sale by owner to be totally forthcoming with me. So, I mean, part of the value that I know that we as real estate agents bring when we list a home is there's a higher expectation on us because we are licensed. And so we have to abide by our code of ethics. We have to abide by our rules and our laws. So, but a for sale by owner, they might not think that.
How can they be forthcoming if they don't even know what to be forthcoming about?
Right.
if
They
they're
haven't
not
seen a
understanding?
seller's disclosure statement. So how would they know?
Anyone else have another question? Tim? Okay, here, you're close enough. I'll just give you a mic.
I don't know about this guy.
Open houses, obviously we're going down on our availability of those, but still they're a great lead gen. And Chris, I know you're great at this, but I wanted to ask you particularly, and I'd like to get everybody else's, is I believe in first word floodgates. When you start the conversation, everything else can flow. And I know that you've got a great opening line that you've practiced for open houses. Can you share it with everybody?
The very first question that I ask someone when they walk in the door is, are you seeing a lot of opens today?
Me too. Maybe I get that from you.
Okay, so that question, the way they answer it is going to tell you a lot about them. If they say, yes, we have 4 that we're looking at today, I know that they are an active buyer who wants to buy a house right now. Okay, and so my questions after that are going to be based on the fact that I know that they're actively searching for a home. And so, it could be a follow-up question might be about location, it might be about school, it might be about just trying to understand what they're looking for. And I'll ask something like, how are you, something like, how are you getting into other homes, besides open houses? I'll ask a question about whether or not they're being represented without asking them if they're being represented. How else are you getting into doors, that are not open houses? If they say, well, I'm working with, Alex and he's my agent, and I'll say, great, he's a great guy. I've heard really great things about him, or I've done transactions with him, and, you're well represented, and I'll send them on their way. If they say, oh, this is the only one I'm looking at today, well, it's either a really specific house that they want to buy, or maybe it's the only one available right now that's open today, or they're a neighbor. And so if they're a neighbor, then I want to know why they're there. Are they there because they are just curious about their neighbor's house? More than likely, they're thinking about selling a house, and so they want to come to the open house in the neighborhood to figure out what their value of their house is compared to this one. So I have probably 20 different questions that I will specifically ask in any order, just based on how the conversation is flowing. But it all comes down to how motivated are they and how represented are they?
Cool. Does anybody else have any other questions, Kirk? Okay, here, let me just run because people online
I
aren't
must
hearing
have
very well.
learned everything from you because I literally say the same exact things. Like you're asking them a question, a specific question without asking it directly. Or another one I ask is, how long have you been looking? Did you just start, or have you been looking for a while?
I answer that one as
Just how serious they are, and if they're just out looking. I mean, people go to open houses for fun. So, and if they've been looking for a while, then I'll ask, well, who's
sometimes they'll
helping you?
say, oh, well, I've been looking for years.
Like, I don't want to
Well,
work
that's a
with
look
you.
they're looking for decoration ideas.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that that question got asked, because one of the questions that I wanted to ask all of you, and first of all, thank you so much for giving us your time and your insights. We really appreciate that. And since we're in the spirit of sharing, my question for each one of you is, what's the secret weapon that you have or that you do that you find gets you the best results? And you can take it from any situation that you've encountered with either a buyer or a seller. But what's the one thing that you feel like that you have in your arsenal or in your back pocket that gets you the best results every single time you take that action or use that phrase?
Now, when you say best results, are you meaning clients to closings?
Clients to closings.
Clients to closings.
Turning that house to, you know, an active listing. What's the one thing that you have in your, oh, I see ideas already. I see
Yep.
Go ahead. Everybody sees.
Follow up. Literally, my number, when people ask me, like, what's the secret? It's follow up, because everybody knows at least 5 real estate agents. And it's about, even if they're not ready to buy right now or list right now. And I've lost clients like that, and it freaking hurts, because if I did the right follow up with them, I would have got that listing or I would have got that buyer, but I just slacked. So I think the one thing that I have learned that's probably the most important is follow up.
Brett
Yep.
Smiley actually has a sticky note on his computer saying not following up caused me $12,000 in commission because he
I
didn't
need-
follow up.
Yeah.
And the person that they went with was Dan. So it's kind of funny.
I agree with that. Follow up is the most important thing that you can do in our industry. But I'm going to answer that a different way. If I can get someone in person at a house at a showing, they're mine. Okay, and also in open houses, I love to hold open houses that I would never sell to my clients, because I can build trust that way by pointing out all the reasons that I don't want to sell them this house. You know, like, and I'll say, I'm holding this open for a friend of mine who's the listing agent, and they just couldn't hold it open today. And in conversation, it will, you know, I know the things that are wrong with that house. I know what they're looking at and why they don't want that house, because it's the same reason that I wouldn't want to live in the house. And so I'll kind of bring that up in conversation, like, you know, problems with the house, but I can find you other houses, you know, and where I'm showing my clients or my buyers specifically, my expertise is I'm going to be looking for things in a house that they're not going to look for because they don't know to look for it. Okay. So I'm going to look for rot on the outside of the house that they never would have seen. I'm going to look for cracks in a foundation. I'm going to look for anything that's wrong with the house. And I'm going to show them, this is why you probably don't want to have this house, or, you know, because all the gutters are emptying right at the foundation, you're probably going to have, you know, issues in the crawl space, or, you know, just if I can show problems with the house in our first viewing or second viewing or something, I'm establishing my expertise as, you only want to look with me because I'm going to be completely honest with you, and I'm going to show you all of the things that are wrong with the house, so that when we get to a house that's a great house that you should buy, then you're going to trust me that I'm not just trying to sell you on something. I'm going to sell you on not buying a number of houses before I tell you that you should buy this house. And by the time I tell them that, then they believe me.
So devil's advocate though, how do you say that in a way to, one, our other agents will still let you hold their open houses, and two, potentially with recordings in the home these days, how do you combat those conversations so you're still providing that value, yet you're not just completely just saying, forget this house, it's bad? Because the sellers could be very upset if they heard that through a recording, or if the actual listing agent heard it.
I'm never saying anything that's dishonest.
Okay.
You know, so if they were recording my conversation, which I've never had a listing agent come back to me and say, hey, I heard that you said some negative things about my listing. Most listing agents don't even ask me for feedback after an open house. But no, I've never had an agent come and say, I heard you say negative things about the house. And if they did, I would say, I didn't say anything that was dishonest. You know, everything that I said about the house is how I truly feel about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not at that open house to sell that house. I am not trying to sell that house ever. And I think I've sold maybe my open house a couple of times, but very rarely. I'm trying to pick up clients and sell them other houses or list their house and sell them something else. I'm not trying to sell the house that I'm holding open.
Okay, good point.
So I do the exact same thing. And it's about what do I see and what do I not see with the home. And most of the time I don't hold my own open houses. I choose not to. And when I've had people that, I've had friends that have become real estate agents and they want to shadow me and I'll take them through the home. What are you laughing at?
It's
What
just
did I
funny because
do?
you don't want to hold your own listings because you're like, I don't want to point out the things I already know is wrong with this listing. You're like, oh,
Mainly.
don't tell me, I already know.
Yeah, no, it's like, I don't want, but also I represent my fiduciary duty to the seller. If I'm trash talking the house or if they consider what I'm doing trash talking the house, that's kind of looks bad, a little iffy. But when I approach a house, I mean, I start every single showing the same way. It's like clockwork. First thing I do is I look, what can we see from the exterior? If I see that it looks like there's areas that have been overgrown or it looks like they just took a weed whacker and just tried to get all of this overgrowth out, but they probably haven't been maintaining it, that's something to notate. But when I walk up to the home, I look to see if I can find any termite boreholes. If I see any boreholes, then I know the house has been treated for termites in the past. And that's not a bad thing. If the home was built in 72, it's never had, and I don't see any evidence of potential termite treatments, that means the home may have never had some type of termite treatment, whether that's through termite boreholes or not. But if there's no evidence of treatment termites in this area, it's more of, when, not if. So if I go through the home, if I look, I go to the crawl space entrance and I open it. I open it every time because it's very telling. If it's cold, it means that you might have ductwork that's disconnected and now you're heating or cooling your crawl space. Or it smells mildy. You can see that it's got a vapor barrier, but the vapor barrier is all tore up and it's useless. There's so many things that you can see, but you have to be consistent. So if you're like, oh my God, this house is amazing, but you didn't do any of the things that you had previously done in the past by pointing things out there, I mean, that's the first way to not trust you. So the thing that I think holds the best value that I have is when I show a house, I show it as if I'm going to buy it or I'm going to sell it to somebody that I really care about. So if you don't care about your mom, don't use that. Like, I would sell this to you like I would sell it to my mom, make sure you like her first. But if you have those type of showings and you're showing people the I like my mom, by the way. She's a nice lady. She's weird, but she's nice. Um, you know, you have to be consistent, but if you show the home where you're not just saying, look at this gray wall and white trim and awesome Chip and Joanna puked in here, if you're showing it to the point where people are like, okay, these are the things I wouldn't have seen. I didn't even notice that they've moved the electrical panel and now it's a fuse box, but there's a panel over here. Like, you have to find all kinds of different things. Every home, even if it's brand new, is something going on with it. Every home. So try and find it and they will trust you. And so that's the thing that I think works out the most, because they'll come back to me. And that's why I have referral business mainly, is because my clients want to work with me.
Commission, Brett.
I don't. And because it looks like I'm not necessarily talking them out of a house or into a house, but I'm telling them that this is a good solid house. So, but when I say if I don't find things, then they're very comfortable, very confident moving forward with the purchase of that home.
So was this valuable today? Yes. Okay, cool. So oh, you have one more question? Okay, we got to hurry because we're running over on time.
Tim.
Yeah,
who
but
let
I go
him in?
deep, you know me. Paulina, deep respect. The number of transactions that you have turned out means that you've done so much follow-up. And you have talked about the importance of that follow-up. If you're doing 20 touches on your first one to get your transaction through with them, I can't imagine how many clients you're dealing with and how many follow-up things you're doing. How do you organize that many conversations and always keep it flowing so it feels naturally to that one unique person?
That is a great question.
Without using a TC, by the way.
Yeah, that's where the part where I have no life goes.
Why don't you have a TC?
I do now, but it took a lot of convincing. Yeah. So I do a number of things. It just depends on the client, whether I met them at an open house or whatever. If it's a friend that's looking to buy, I use a calendar. So I always put it in my calendar to follow up with them. Or if I have people that I met. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it depends on the client. It depends, you have ABC clients. So it depends how quickly they're wanting to purchase. But for my more serious active buyers that maybe I met at an open house, I am a visual person. So in my office, if you've ever been to my office, I have whiteboards everywhere. Austin hates them. But I have a list of them. And every morning, and this is just an example of one way to follow up. My active buyers, every morning I check the hot sheet. And if I see a new listing that one of my active buyers likes, then I'll send that over to them. But man, it's all about having models and systems in place, and command is a great way to be reminded to follow up with those people. The top 4 smart plans that Mike always talks about are the quarterly calls, the happy birthday, neighborhood update, and there's just so many.
Anniversary.
Doing that in the morning, or is that just continuous in your life when you've got a moment you stop and look at your wife?
I try to get it done in the morning. So I'm usually in the office 8 or 9, and I will do most of that follow up. I try to keep it between 9 and 11. It doesn't always happen, but I would say I try to get it done before noon, just touching base with my clients before I have to go show houses or go on listing appointments and stuff like that. And psychologically,
Psychologically.
that I can psychologically people are more prone to answer your phone calls in the morning. So if you call somebody or send them a text message, they're more open to conversation because they haven't been bombarded with a million phone calls and a million questions. So that's why I try to do it in the morning. Does that answer your question? Yeah, it is. And I would just say it's all about figuring out, yeah, and I do too. It's hard to keep track of everything and everyone, but it's about finding those systems and models that I don't know what kind of CRM use, but I like Command and it's free. You can literally put a contact in there and set them up on different smart plans depending on what type of a lead they are, and Command will remind you every day on your task list, call this person, follow up with this person. It's this person's birthday. Wish them happy birthday. Or even send them a quick text or a Facebook message. Or if you just want to touch them, go comment on their Facebook post. Just little touches here and there.
Cool. Okay, so I will say for the next mastermind, please email me what topics you want to cover. We are running way over on time, so we'll talk about that after. Just send me what topics, and I'll get the speakers for next month. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. Yeah, yeah. It's 5 till. I mean, do you guys? I just want to make sure you guys are good. Do you want me to let Nicole ask the question, or do you guys have time? Okay. Okay, Nicole. Cool. Let me come to you really quick.
Hey, before your question, I wanted to add something on my active buyers on their searches. The way that I like to set it up is I have their searches going to me and not to them. I want to see the houses that are going to be going to my clients, and I want to filter them, and I want to send them a text message or call them to say, hey, this one just came on the market. I just saw it. I think it'd be great for you. What do you think about it? Because if it's just an automated search where they're just getting automated emails from the MLS or from your website or something, it's not as personal as you shooting them a text message with a link saying, I found this for you, because that is you displaying more value to them, because it looks like you're actively looking for them, where you're really just using the search feature to alert you that this came on the market for, this particular client, and you can just forward it on to them.
My last 2 transactions were for sale by owner homes, and I asked if they would pay my commission because I brought a buyer. However, we got into the transaction and someone said, well, why didn't you ask to represent them on their side and have commission on their side? And I ended up representing both sides, not really knowing that I didn't really think about it. I was new to it. So how do you have that conversation about representing both sides? And what do you do if they don't want to be represented because you're kind of thrown into it anyways? Does that make sense? Yeah, yeah, because you have to do it, I suppose, because then what? I mean, they,
Actually just had one go under contract like this 2 days ago. So this buyer, they were a part of my struggle bus crew. So we got something done, and the sellers, this was a unique situation. These sellers were very savvy. Husband's a custom home builder, kind of a different transaction than you're normally going to come across when you're dealing with for sale by owners. So for them, I understood where they were. Did you offer?
No.
Well, we won, so oops. There was another agent that offered, and we ended up making it happen. But then again, we got advantages that nobody else did. We brought our clients, their cute baby, and their families. I mean, we had a caravan rolling into this house, and everybody was, we had this conversation before, was setting the precedent with them that we cannot say anything that we don't like about this house in this house. We will come outside into the street. We'll talk about that with me. And in this house, everything's great. I mean, point out everything you like, be bubbly, talk to the owner, and that won us the deal. So, I mean, we were able to get somebody under contract and something they're really going to like. Underpriced house, by the way. If my buyer didn't want it, that listing was easy. So, it's looking at it that way and knowing that I'm going to provide value to somebody. If it's going to be my client today, great. If it's going to be my client doesn't want this and I can go provide value to this seller, great, but provide value. I am representing both sides. I'm not getting paid on both sides. I had to offer that to get the deal done. That was, the other offer was higher. And for my clients, I knew they were at the top of their budget. They could not have went more. And dealing with this seller, this is a weird situation. I've done it before where I've gotten both sides. This side, it's just this person's savvy. They know what they're doing. They told me, they kind of let it slip, they're going on vacation in 2 weeks. Well, actually, it was they're leaving on this Friday and they're going to be gone for 2 weeks. In my head, I'm thinking that's inspection time. That's when the inspector is going to be over there to get into this house to look at it. So I already know that they're going to either have to have somebody over here or I'm going to have an opportunity to provide value to them to get this deal done. So is it worth my time to throw a lockbox over there and help them through just the transactional stuff on that side to get a deal done for my clients? In my mind, it was a yes. And I just did it. Now on the flip hand, when you're going in and trying to get that person to transfer over to what you're doing, that's when you walk through the spiel of have you seen the contract? Do you know what an inspection notice is? Are you going to be able to get these things back? When you see these things, are you going to be able to do that? And breaking that down for them, that's a way that you can show not only your knowledge, but also how complicated transactions can get. And then again, you are negotiating on your client's behalf at that point. So it's like, you're paying me to work against you, which is fine. If you want to do that, I can do that. But I think providing value is kind of the biggest piece there. If you're trying to get both sides of the transaction, provide value across the board.
I have one right now that I have under contract that was an off-market property, and I sold it to one of my buyers, and I am getting a full 6%, both sides of it. And when the question about commission came up from the seller saying, well, you have the buyer, can I just pay the buyer's commission? This particular house was one that I would have listed had I not sold it immediately. And so my conversation was, I'm going to list your house and I could sell it with another agent and you're going to pay 6%. This buyer, I'm going to sell them something. It's not necessarily your house, and I'm going to make the 3% on theirs. I just happen to be selling them your house. I'm going to get the 3% from your listing, and I'm going to get the 3% from my buyer. I'm just going to do it on this one transaction. So it's like, I'm going to list and sell your house. I'm going to sell this buyer something. And it just happens to be both sides of the commission are coming from your listing, essentially. That's not going to work every time on a for sale by owner. If I'm trying to talk a for sale by owner into letting me come through with a buyer and write an offer on a buyer, first of all, I have to have an authorization to show, which is going to just show my 3% up front. It would be hard for me to come back later on and say, actually, instead of 3%, I'd like a full 6% or 4% or something. So you have to negotiate your commission with them up front. And maybe it is, you know, my commission with for sale by owners is 4% or 5%. You know, it's not a full 6%, but I'm going to be doing a ton of work on your behalf. And so in order for me to want to bring you a buyer and work both sides of it, I'm going to be doing double the work, which I'm not really, because my TC is going to be doing double the work. You know, then you could try to negotiate the commission up front, but you have to do it before you even bring the buyer to the house.
We're a little over 12:30. So do you guys have appointments? I just want to make sure. Yeah. Okay. So we'll reconvene this conversation for later. Again, if you have other topics you would like to see in the future, please either email them to me and we'll go ahead and get the next date set up for next month. Thanks, guys.